now I graduate, I'm in debt, right? But now I'm like, how am I going to pay it off, right? And one of the number one, it's not just in physical therapy. The one of the top reasons why people are not happy within their career is not because of the career itself. It's because of the financial trap that they feel like they're in, right? And what if I get into physical therapy school but can't pay for it? This is a real issue, and it's a real question that a lot of students have. We have quite a few students that ask us this question consistently. Students that either are currently working a full-time job and are like, this is literally how I pay for my life, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to work full-time when I go into PT school. So I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how the scholarship thing works. I don't know how to pay for it. I can't get help from my family members. I can't, like, it starts to stress students out. In fact, one question I ask students, I ask them, how would it feel to get your first acceptance letter into PT school? And it's funny because you would expect that the answer is always like, oh, I'd be so excited. It'd be so amazing. It'd be a dream come true, which that's half the answer that I typically get. Like, most students are like, it'd be amazing. But then immediately afterwards, I would start trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for it, because that's my next problem. So it's crazy how something that should actually be super exciting ends up becoming very stressful as well. It's almost like you go from one stress of trying to get accepted into physical therapy school to the next stress of how am I going to pay for it? So that's what I want to talk about on this video. And then of course, I'm going to give you some next steps afterwards. But if you are new to the Pre-PT Grind platform, my name is Joseph Scoogie. I'm a physical therapist. I am also one of the co-founders of Pre-PT Grind, where for years, we've been helping students get accepted into physical therapy school without wasting time or money. So I'm telling you right now, if you feel stuck, this is the platform to be on. Be sure to like, subscribe, share this out if this gives you value, and then just binge on as much content on here as possible. But let's talk about money, because this is huge, and this is usually something that a lot of students keep private. I don't know what it is. Like, we're all nervous about talking about money. I remember even in school, in PT school, whenever I asked questions about income or money, even money after I graduated from physical therapy school, they always said, well, this is a helping profession. You're not in this for the money. And I'm like, man, listen, like, this is a real, like, life thing. Like, people are really trying to figure this out. Money before I get into physical therapy school, how am I going to pay for retakes, classes, all that stuff, right? The second level is basically money while I'm in school, basically money to pay for PT school, right? So if you're a student that wants to either pay for school or you want to pay for your life while you're in school, which means that I'm trying to figure out how to still pay the bills, still have a roof over my head, still have some food while I'm in classes, right? And truth be told, there's students that have family members, right? Like, we have students in our coaching program who, they have kids, they have like people that are depending on them. So it's like they're going to school, but they have people that are depending on them. And it starts to create some real stressors. And I'll talk about different things that you can do, but like, this is really to help you guys answer probably one of the biggest questions that I get, which is how am I going to pay for PT school? And then there's the issue afterwards, right? So after I graduate, now what happens is most students graduate, and I'm telling you, like, it's crazy how every major milestone that should be exciting is just followed by stress, right? So it's like, I get excited. Like, it should not be that way, by the way. Like if we can figure out this whole money thing, you should be excited at each milestone. That's the norm. The norm should be that when I get into PT school, I should be super excited. Like, oh my goodness, like, my dream's coming true. Period, the end, right? When I finish physical therapy school, I should just be excited. Oh my God, let's go, right? And then, my career is amazing, right? That's what the norm should be. But what ends up really happening, and I'm telling you all this because chances are not many people will actually tell you how this thing works. And it's just our obligation to do it. And this is how we teach our students. So, and I'll give you an opportunity at the end if you want to, have a conversation with one of our team members. We got you. But the last stage is, after you graduate from physical therapy school, now you have loans to pay off, right? Debt to pay off. In fact, I had two classmates in my PT class who were like $250,000 in debt individually, right? So it's like, if I graduate, I'm in a profession where I'm making maybe $80,000 a year, depending on which part of the country I'm living in. That's $80,000 before taxes. I'm not trying to stress y'all out. I'm trying to tell y'all the reals and then tell y'all how to navigate through this, because this is very important. This is not going to be one of those videos where you're like, oh my goodness, this was like super fun to listen to. No, this is real life, because this is your career. Becoming a physical therapist, like, the the more y'all can know this on the front end, the happier you will be on the back end, because you will not be in the same trap that many other students and physical therapists are in. Does that make sense? So this is super important. So like now I graduate, I'm in debt, right? But now I'm like, how am I going to pay it off, right? And one of the number one, it's not just in physical therapy, one of the top reasons why people are not happy within their career is not because of the career itself. It's because of the financial trap that they feel like they're in, right? And so this is not just physical therapy. This happens with physicians. It happens with different professions where people are spending a lot of money on school, but have never been taught how to make the ROI, basically a return on an investment. They've never been told how to make it make sense financially. Does that make sense? And even with physical therapy, like schools are going to be expensive because y'all going to keep applying, right? But at the end of the day, like the pay that you're getting paid as a PT, and yes, there are settings that pay you more and some less and whatnot, but what would it feel like to be able to graduate and not have debt? So that now when you're starting to make money as a professional, you're not having to figure out how to pay off 6 figures worth of debt or multi 6 figures worth of debt. Like how much more amazing would that be, right? Which is why this whole thing of how am I going to pay for school is so freaking important. I hope this is making sense, y'all. So and please, like after this is done, let me know in the comments below what your biggest takeaways are, but this is huge. So let's talk about it. So there's really 3 levels, right? So when it comes to figuring out how to pay for school, right? The main levels that we have to address is number 1, the school selection, right? So if I am a pre-PT that is trying to get into physical therapy school and I want to figure out how to pay for school, the first problem you need to solve is how can I not be in as deep of a hole, right? And this is one of the reasons why I actually think PT is really cool for this, is the fact that there's really no hierarchy or status with the school that you go to. So if you go to a school because it's a big name, it really doesn't matter in physical therapy. No one's going to care. So go to a school that gives you the best chances of getting accepted, and there's ways of figuring that out. And if you want our help, we got you, because we actually help students get into PT school. That's what we do professionally, right? But more importantly, find schools that actually make sense financially, right? Would I rather go to a school that's $200,000 or would I rather go to a school that's $85,000, right? And obviously I'm giving some very extreme examples, but that's a big difference, right? If I'm like $200,000 before interest is a lot of money when what you're getting paid out of school is the exact same. If you're both getting paid 80 grand, the person that's only paying $80,000 for a PT school versus $200,000 is going to have a leg up. Does that make sense? So first thing is school selection. I need to choose schools that make sense financially. Stop choosing schools for status. Stop choosing schools because it sounds good or it's going to look good. Nobody will care. Your patients will not care. And I'm not telling y'all this to be mean. I'm telling y'all this to make you realize how little it matters which school you go to in terms of status, right? Your employer doesn't care. Like, it's not like being a physician. It's not like going to law school. Like some of those, yes, maybe there is some prestige involved with certain schools, but with physical therapy, it doesn't exist. So pick a school that makes sense financially. Pick the cheaper schools, and they exist. It's not just in-state, by the way. There are schools that are with out-of-state tuitions that are less than $100,000. So it's just a matter of, can I find those programs, but can I also make sure that I'm also applying to schools that will help me get accepted? Because we definitely still got to get into PT school, and that's a big part of how we teach. So that's key. Number 1, school selection. Number 2, it's understanding how scholarships really work, right? So I think, and I don't have time on this particular train to break down the science of scholarships, but what I can tell you is a lot of students just don't know how scholarships really work. What most people want is they're like, okay, just give me a list of scholarships to apply to, and then they'll apply to 10 scholarships, 15 scholarships, maybe 20 scholarships, and that's like an extreme case scenario, and then they'll get nothing out of them. Or maybe one scholarship will give them a grand, right? And they're like, oh, scholarships don't work, and then people stop. That is the problem. In fact, we had a student in our coaching program. Our coaching program is called the Accepted System. If you want to learn more about it, go to acceptedsystem.com. But we had a student in our coaching program who did over $100,000 in scholarships before they started PT school. That's huge. Over $100,000 in scholarships, right? So imagine, I mean, okay, so let's say you don't get $100,000. Maybe you get $40,000 in scholarships just because you learn how scholarships work, even at the graduate school level. I'm talking about like graduate level scholarships is what I'm talking about. Like most students just don't know how scholarships work. And most importantly, most students treat scholarships as a thing they test out, as opposed to treating scholarships like a full-time job. right? If you understand the psychology of scholarships or even how they work or where to look for them, and realizing that most of the scholarships you'll get in grad school aren't at the schools, right? And so if you can learn that, if you can learn how to treat it like a full-time job, then your chances of getting some really, really amazing scholarships goes through the roof. And that's what this one student that was in our program, along with other students that have gotten quite a bit in scholarship. We just had a student probably 2.5 weeks ago that got another $25,000 in scholarships for PT school, right? Y'all, this is real. But imagine, so for that student, before her first day of physical therapy school, she had school paid off via scholarships. Is this making sense? So remember what I said? Point number 1 is the schools I select. Point number 2 is understanding how scholarships work. If you can do it the right way, those two alone will put you in an amazing position. Imagine if you go to a school that's $85,000 or $90,000 and you got $40,000 in scholarship. How much closer would that get you to where it's not as stressful for you to pay for school? Even if you have to take out a few loans, it's nowhere close to being multi-six figures in debt after school. Is this making sense, right? And then the last part is learning how to make more money while in school. Now, I'm not going to break down all the details of this because we only have so much time on a training like this. But if you want to learn more, either go to acceptedsystem.com and apply for our coaching program, or just go to acceptedstrategy.com and just get on a call with one of our team members and we'll talk to you more about how this whole thing works. But when it comes to making more money, what people don't realize is that there's different levels of how you can make money, right? So you can make money at the, what I call low dollar value stage, which means that I am, at a job that basically 80% of the population can do. So if I'm working a job where I'm getting paid $15 an hour or whatnot, that's a job that most people can do. Meaning that if I quit my job because I'm not getting paid enough, they're going to replace me by that afternoon. It's just how it works, right? So if I'm working at Walmart, if I'm working at just understand, you're not getting paid for the hard work you put in. So if you're like, but I show up first before anybody else, listen, you are replaceable. It's how it works. We're not going to change how the economy works. We're not just understand the game so that you're not caught in this trap of, but I'm putting everything into this job that I have that's paying me $15 an hour, but they're not going to pay me more. I don't get it. Well, that's why people are stressed out when they think about making money in school, because they're like, oh my goodness, I have this job, I'm not paid a whole lot. Oh, it's going to take a lot of hours just to be able to pay for classes, just to be able to. So now we start to stress out about things and it just gets in our head. So that's only one way. It's not the way I would advise. Just saying, right? So there's two other levels. The second level is what I call, so the first level was low dollar skills, right? Low dollar skills are where I'm paid 15 to 20 bucks, right? An hour, right? So, and I can be replaced. The second level is what I call middle dollar skills or clinical skills, right? So, or educated skills. So this is typically when I have learned a skill from either school or a trade or something that I had to get specialized in order to be able to do a task. So physical therapy actually falls under that. Imagine if someone said, I went to YouTube and I learned how to treat people, and then they went to a clinic and said, I'm a physical therapist because I watched a 2-hour YouTube video. No one's going to trust that person because they don't have a certain level of education. But even as a physical therapist, I'm still replaceable, right? There's a certain point where I'm like, pay me more. They'll let me go and they'll hire another PT the next week. It's just how it works, right? And so there's a different level though. It's called high dollar skills, where you can learn skills that will get you paid even more. And skills, some of those could include learning how to market, learning how to use online to actually help other businesses, right? And we have students right now that are making anywhere from, it's gonna sound so unrealistic because you probably never heard this before, but we have students right now making anywhere from $4,000 a month to, we had a student that made $17,300 a month last month, and she's in her first year of physical therapy school, right? So these are skills that allow you to say, okay, cool, I'm actually going to solve problems that actually can be learned by anybody, don't actually require an academic education, but most people just don't want to do them because they're like, oh, well, that sounds hard, or that doesn't make sense, that's abstract. I'm used to just working a job where I work a 9 to 5. You've just learned the whole money game a little bit backwards, right? And so if I learn a skill that can actually get me paid more, that solves a big problem for someone that can actually pay me, whether that's a clinic or a business or whatnot, or I can actually start a side hustle or a business, which we have students right now that have side hustles and businesses, and they're actually paying their way through PT school in cash. So let's add them all up. Schools that are not as expensive, scholarships, making more money, and you actually have students. We have students that are not just graduating school debt free, but they're actually graduating school with a surplus of income and a set of skills that actually make them more valuable once they become a physical therapist. So instead of getting paid $80,000 a year, they're getting paid six figures out of school. That's the game. Like, I just gave it to y'all for free. Like if you can shift how you look at this whole how to pay for a PT school thing and open up your mind to understand this game, how it's actually played, you're going to open doors that your family members, like most of your family members, have never walked through, right? And it's what we've done. Like, I mean, we have multiple businesses and we do really well, but like, you can learn that as a student right now. It's not something you have to wait until you're a physical therapist to figure out. But please don't fall into this trap of thinking that you have to be in a whole bunch of debt. You have to be stuck financially. You have to, just live off of loans and that's it. And then you just figure it out later. That's what you're told. And the thing is, PT school will not teach you how to make money because that's not their job. PT school's job is to help you become a physical therapist. That's the key. That's why I'm telling you this, because if you can learn this now, it'll open up the doors for you. Does that make sense? If that was helpful, tell me what your biggest takeaway was, in the comments below. Share this out with someone else that needs to listen to this, because this is freaking huge. And if you're a pre-PT and you're like, yo, I need help with not just that, but getting into physical therapy school and doing it at a very, very high level, then please go to www.acceptedstrategy.com, www.acceptedstrategy.com. And one of our team members will talk to you directly about your situation, help you figure out what your best game plan is. And then from there, let's get to work, take care of business, and get you one step closer to becoming a physical therapist that's not in debt. Let's go.